The
That's
fucking
crazy.
wild to Pat Bev. Talking about, do we need to extend the stay in Cancun? Y'all can on the private jet.
Stop.
Dane and CJ trolling hard.
Yes.
This is the wrong time for me to not be on Twitter. I've been trying to be good and like not be on it, and people going crazy.
Nah, so
field day.
Somebody sent Damian Lillard the video of Paul George shooting a shot off the side of the
and asked him if it was a good shot. Oh, baby Jesus. No. Did you see the best? The best one. Remember when they asked LeBron about why Paul George went to the Clippers? And he was like, how can I answer that question? Oh, ask Kawhi. And they said, how does it feel to blow a 3-1 lead?
I don't know.
Kawhi. Oh, my God.
Oh, my God. I'm so shocked by – I don't want to say I'm shocked by the Clippers losing, but for me, this goes into, like, Doc Rivers, bro. Like for the last
4 of them, 5 of them. How many times, bro?
He's blown 3-1 leads now in his career. No other coach has blown 2. It's like at the Clippers, you telling me you had Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan, JJ Redick, Lou Will, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, and you couldn't make it out the second round?
Right. Don't know what to do with them.
Did you hear or did you see what Matt Barnes tweeted or posted on Instagram?
No, I didn't see it.
He said the curse of Donald Sterling lives. Did you guys watch that on Quibi?
No, I didn't.
No.
It's called what is it called? Oh, I watched it on Quibi. It's so good. So it's all about that playoff series and the Donald J. Sterling thing and the Clippers. Dang, I posted about it. It's really good. It's a really good series. You should watch it.
Yeah, I haven't checked out anything on Quibi yet.
Yeah.
So everybody out there acting crazy now. See what happens? You can't go out. Ain't got no clubs to go to. No yacht parties. So now you're just on Twitter talking reckless, huh? That's what you're doing.
I think the curse, if that's the case, the curse is going to last for another, 2 years or so. So if I'm not mistaken, he just got the right to build the new Clippers stadium. So I think the Clippers going to get to break ground in a stadium in Inglewood.
That's no good.
But it's like, so when the Clippers get to have their own stadium, you now get to wax off all of that curse, all of that embarrassment, and also being the little brother to the Lakers, where when you play, everybody look up at the rafters and all you see is Kobe, Magic, Kareem, Shaq, Jerry.
Yeah, but wait, aren't they going to the Forum?
Are they? They said they're going to build a new stadium.
Oh, that's what they need to do. Because if you go to the Forum, what are you doing?
Okay, well, look. So, are we going to act like a brand new stadium is going to help with poor coaching? We're just going to ignore that part.
Okay, but Doc is actually and that's the thing that's hard, right? Doc seems to be a great coach, except for these instances.
Well, I mean, listen, look. What do you tell your students, right? What do you tell them? You do your homework, you do great, but when the tests come, you do poor on the tests. What's their grade?
Yeah,
well, that's how we do projects in my class.
So
touche.
I think Doc deserves some blame specifically for blowing those leads. But I also who's their general manager? It's not Jerry West anymore, right? Who is it? Or is it Jerry West? Because
I think it's still Jerry West. I don't think it's I'm about to look it up right now.
Look, whoever that general manager is deserves some blame. Because I peeped it a long time ago. Paul George nor Kawhi Leonard are elite playmakers. Mm-hmm. And when Lou Will comes in the game, he gets buckets. He's not a passer. Patrick Beverly, I could play Patrick Beverly part on offense. That boy trash. But the fact of the matter is, you saw when Denver would go on their runs, all Paul George would do is settle for a 3, or he would try to go inside and throw up a rough layup. Kawhi would try to bully his way inside, throw up a horrible layup, or try to bully to the mid-range. But the fact of the matter is there was nobody setting them up for just easy shots. There was no one that could slow the game down and set the pace for them, put some players in the correct spot. Like, I feel like if they had like an Atlanta Jeff Teague type player, not even a superstar, just like a Jeff Teague type player, they would be fine.
Lonzo.
Look, I was about to say, if the Lakers or Clippers get Lonzo, they're going back to the title next year. And that's the thing, because Lonzo, he has to improve his driving to the basket. He has to improve his mid-range. 2 things that he said himself he's going to work on this summer. And I believe him. The kid shows he works. And Lonzo knows, even if he's just standing at the top of the key, I enjoy watching. Sometimes he's standing there like a quarterback. He was standing at the top. He will point one person over here. He points another person to the dunker spot. And then next thing you know, Zion is spinning off the block and Lonzo's through a live. Or
you mean act like a real point guard?
Yes. Or Brandon Ingram is running off a pin down and catching the ball off the
catch easy.
And Lonzo's he doesn't dribble one time on that play. He sends everybody to where they need to go and then find the open man. And if the open man doesn't mean he's going to get the assist, but it means he might find the open man who then makes the hockey assist and passes it to the person who's going to make the play. And that's all the Clippers need. They don't have a point guard. Like,
You're right.
I remember, like, if they had like a Pablo Prigioni back in the day, somebody simple, bro. Simple.
Yeah, I feel you.
Or the other thing is,
You went about back in the day, a little Jordan Farmar.
Nah, not Jordan. I ain't gonna go that far. But like, look, if they like, I think about Steph Curry, and I think about just the gravity that Steph Curry brings from his 3-point shot. And so even if you have somebody like that, like Lou Will is a penetrate crossover. I can make the 3, but really I'm trying to get to the basket or mid range. Like if Kawhi and PG just had somebody that can stand out there that's gonna knock your head off, that's a different offense. So Doc deserves some blame, but whomever the GM is, they deserve some too. Straight up.
Yeah. So it's Michael Winger, right? Or Wigner. That's the general manager. Michael Wigner. Yeah. Whole different dude. He's new.
I better go hire Eugene. That's all I'm gonna say.
They better.
Look, even if we look back, right? Even if we look back to like the early 2010s when Blake Griffin had just bounced over to the Clippers, right? You got CP3 and, you know, that whole star-studded, because let's be honest, like that was a pretty big bench that they had there. Like, I honestly was really sad that they didn't do better in the playoffs, right? Like,
I think that was Doc's fault. But JJ Redick said on a podcast this week, though, he said, like, basically Blake is very similar, like young Blake was very similar to Zion in that he's just so physical in his ability to get buckets off athleticism. Blake was a bad free throw shooter then. He didn't have a jump shot. And he said, if we had the healthy first year Detroit Blake, who's shooting 6 3-pointers a game at 38%, and is getting 5 assists a game, he's like, we would have won the championship. And I think that's true, but I also think about, like, the Clippers being up by 25 on the Rockets and giving that lead up. And that's Doc Rivers.
That's what I'm saying, though, right? I don't want to point to just one
But again,
person.
they did well, and again, I think their best opportunity was marred with the Donald Sterling thing. And I mean, it's hard. That's hard. There's no way you can fight that. It's like I wouldn't play, but I wouldn't have played this week in week 1 either.
Yeah. And that's actually what our podcast is going to be about today. Like week 1 of the NFL, the season has started, and it's crazy. I'm gonna be real with y'all. Like I'm not a huge football fan. I'm a basketball first guy. Like I watch football, but the fact of the matter is, it was so quiet leading up to the start of this season. Like, and of course, we got a global pandemic going on.
My wife didn't even. She was like, "Hold on, is this This is week 1? I was like, yeah, man.
Yeah. It's like we had a game Thursday night to open it, and I totally forgot. And something else I realized. Did y'all know Hard Knocks was on this year?
Yeah.
I did not.
It's with the Rams, right? It's with the Rams. Jalen Ramsey been dropping gems. My boy Eric Crocker, he's like a TV guru on Twitter, and so he's been posting stuff. I haven't watched it though.
But that's the thing though. Like normally when we see Hard Knocks come on, we know we're a month and a half away from the season. It's like I didn't even know Hard Knocks came on until like the other day, bro. And I understand the pandemic messed up a lot. But it was just like they did a horrible job of getting fans to redirect their energy and their vision to the games. I would love to see how the ratings did. I would love to see how the ratings did. Because like on Thursday night, I know there was a game Thursday night, a basketball game. And basketball
They ended before.
They ended before. They came on at 6. And it's just like I know the basketball game ratings haven't done great, but it's kind of like how did the NFL normally when the NFL is on, the NFL is king. And I just felt like it wasn't a lot of fanfare going into week 1 of me even knowing that there is a football week. It's just weird. And it's that makes me think about how much the pandemic and how much COVID-19 has impacted. Because of course we normally, a lot of us, sports is like our getaway. You know, like it is September, so we get into playoff baseball. You know, the NFL season and college football have been starting. We're a month. We're in NBA preseason will be starting right now. Yet we're going to the conference finals.
Right.
Yeah.
Normally NBA preseason is started. We had the draft already. Like, look, COVID messed up my 2K. It's like there's no rookies on the game. There's no New Jerseys. None of that. I'm just like, come on, I'm trying to play with LaMelo Ball.
Right.
You know, it's crazy. But
and then I was talking to a friend of mine, and it's like not only do we have these players playing in the midst of this pandemic, but like the 49ers played in super unhealthy air quality.
Right.
Yeah. We care about the players. We talk about Black lives, but this Black labor is on play.
Oh, bars. We talk about
like
with this Black labor. Let's go. Put it on a t-shirt. Underdog. Put that on a t-shirt.
Wow.
But that tells you though, like how much capitalism impacts everything around us. Like literally,
the whole world.
We got a global pandemic. We have in the South, we got hurricanes going on right now. In the Pacific Northwest or the Pacific on the West Coast, we got wildfires. Then we got like global Black Lives Matter protests because the police keep brutalizing and killing Black people. And none of these, like all of this is 1 year. All of this is 1 year. All first verses Loaded Lux would say. And we still finding ways for people to go out there and say, we got to make money.
Like Whitney was just saying, like, what's the craziest thing you've done in the apocalypse? And it's go to work. Go to work every day. Look, someone asked me that today. They were like, hey, how's the school year going? And I was like, I think this is just wild that we are like these kids.
And I guess
in the midst of this.
The more we talk about work, the more it makes me think about that $1,200 stimulus check, bro.
Oh my goodness.
That I never got, bruh. Never got.
What?
Never got, dog.
Is there like a hotline or something?
Oh my God. They were like, yo, so I called them and it just keeps looping, right? It's like a never ending loop. But then, okay, even if I did get it, right? So let's play a game. Let's say unemployed, like millions of other Americans, right? And I get this funky ass $1,200. So do I eat or do I pay rent? Do I have, right? Like, do I have my 4 corners to stay out of COVID and starve? Or am I going to eat but be outside in the element and probably get COVID? But you're going to ignore me getting COVID anyway because I'm homeless, right? And homeless don't matter.
Let's also bring to attention, if you're homeless, if you ain't got that 4 hots and a cot, If you don't got them four corners, then you're easier and closer and more accessible for the police to kill you also. Like that's just fact.
Listen. The same day that President Trump was out here to talk at the Sacramento military base, our group was in the field trying to find a unhoused Vietnam War veteran that's been battling brain cancer for 2 years that just got out of the hospital for surgery. He's unhoused. We was trying to find him so we could try to help him out. The same day. But y'all want to talk about support the troops. Y'all want to talk about America great, America first, vote. Don't forget to vote.
So while we argue about boycotting,
we gonna make the arenas the polling places, but don't even trip because we're not gonna tell you that this isn't your polling spot. So when you pull up to vote at the arena trying to take your Instagram picture, we about to tell you, yo, bro.
Right, you gotta go. You can't be
right here.
Right. So meanwhile, all this is happening, right? We're gonna get upset at the Texans and Miami Dolphins for not wanting to stay out during the national anthem. Right? We're upset with that. We're upset with doing lift every voice and sing at the beginning for week 1, right? For NFL. Like, so what are we doing here exactly? What are we angry about here?
Look, all I know is, hey y'all, I'm gonna follow up Jordan by saying, please go vote though.
Right, please go vote.
Please go vote. Please go vote. And vote locally, especially, but still.
Especially. Yes. But week 1.
Voting is not our answer, but yes, week 1.
Week 1 was crazy.
Performative. So performative politics, performative on who is performative representation,
right?
Performative, and then obviously, performative performance from our athletes.
Yeah, because it was some bad performances. Like this had to be the dude with the replacements, because I swear the play wasn't that great. And at the same time,
it was.
I do have to cut the athletes some slack, not the billionaire owners, but the athletes, because I understand that a lot of them are trying to get paid, even though they should be protesting. That's another conversation we're gonna get to later. But the fact of the matter is,
you mean they was for the profit for the people?
Yes, but they were forced out. To play. They didn't have no preseason. Like training camp.
Not a one. I'm old. My hamstring.
Yes.
Okay, Tom Brady, you old.
And so,
maybe that's why that boy was out there just.
Yeah, he was not.
He needs to hang it up. He should. This worse than when Joe Montana went to Kansas City.
Right. But that goes directly into like what we were talking about before the podcast about the exploitation of Black labor. The NFL is around 70% Black, and like I just said, we got global protests. We got poor air quality due to forest fires. We got people going through hurricanes. We got a global pandemic. And throughout all these things, these billionaires couldn't stop for 1 second and say,
Black boys gonna play today. Young Black boys gonna play today.
Gonna play, and that's what happened. That
is what happened.
It's loosely what happened, because like I said, the play wasn't very good. But that's a conversation where it makes me think about, like, okay, we're sitting here, we're giving our thoughts. We're somewhat being facetious or a little bit overbearing on some of these issues. But let's talk about the history that did happen on this weekend, or this week 1, with 10 Black quarterbacks starting for the first time. And that makes me think about a lot of things. First of all, let's look at their records. Of those 10 quarterbacks, they went 7-3 in week 1. That's a 70% win.
Wait, two of them played each other, right?
Which one?
Deshaun and Patrick.
Yeah, Deshaun and Patrick.
Oh, that's
played
right.
each other.
So someone had to lose that.
Somebody had to lose. So we're really looking at like 80% right here. And so it's just like, look at that. The entire history of the
You
NFL,
do kind of got to throw that one out of statistics.
You got to throw it out. Statistics. But it's like throughout the entire history of the NFL, the owners, the league, white supremacy, the establishment has been fighting Black quarterbacks. And they've been fighting it a number of ways. They've been fighting it through talking about black quarterbacks aren't smart enough. Black quarterbacks are just athletes. Just in other instances, black quarterbacks, yeah, you're good, but you would be better here. Or let's not give you
can't lead. You can't lead.
You can't lead. And that makes me think about how often white quarterbacks get these dumb, simple words to make them feel like they're better than they are. They'll be like, oh, AJ McCarron has moxie. What the hell is moxie? Now, I know what moxie is. I almost got a PhD. I understand what it is. But how does that help you on the field?
How does being sassy on the field mean that you're a good football player? Sass.
But they try to make moxie be leadership. Like that goes into like, if Cam wasn't as talented as Cam Newton has been his entire career, they would have tried to put him out the league a long time ago.
Okay, wait. So let's talk about Cam though. Let's talk about Cam being the second black quarterback for the Patriots. Second black player, for the Patriots, right? And we didn't really talk about that. Let's talk about how he goes from being at the Panthers, where he had to keep quiet about, Black Lives Matter, everything, to now being in like one of the epicenters of arguably one of the most racist NFL teams that we have. Like we talk about the Cowboys all the time, but we never give any smoke to the Patriots ever.
Oh, I do.
We kind of like sweep them under the rug though, as a society, right?
But
like,
wait.
Because they're America's new team.
But see, I disagree.
America, racist like pie. Come on.
I disagree.
No, I think they represent everything about like America.
Okay, I got you. Okay.
Right, like not like from the name, right, to the location, to the owner and his relationship with Trump, and then not even only his relationship with Trump, but then his it's a friendship. There's something there with Meek. Mm-hmm. Like he looks out for Meek. He looks out for like his, my black friend, but
right
in this sexual
like in the white
scandal, what's going on? But he just like scot free. He just like move up out of it. Like, nah, it's Trump. Like it symbolizes America to me.
I get what you're saying. And let's also remember Tom Brady had that MAGA hat in his locker like 2 years ago.
Right, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
But it makes me think like Damani Jones on his last podcast on the Right Time, he spoke about how the Patriots like to see themselves as America's team, even with all of that symbolism. But the fact of the matter is they're not. Because he was just like, think about it. When the Patriots travel, no one is like, oh my gosh, I got to go see the Patriots play whatever team they're playing. It's not like if the Cowboys are coming to play a Los Angeles Rams, the Cowboys are, it's gonna pull in. It's gonna be a sellout. The Patriots don't have that same cachet, and it also makes me think about going back to Cam, and we can use this as a linear connection. Like Whitney, you said Cam like didn't speak about Black Lives Matter, but we got to remember his owner, who had his own racist experiences, his own racism, hired a conservative marketing firm to make sure Cam said the right things. And this is after telling Cam, boy, you better not get no tattoos. Boy, you better not grow your hair. Basically it was that respectability politics where he's like, hey, Cam, you better be this. And a long time, that's been the only way that they would try to allow a black quarterback to slip through.
That's why Cam got to stay so long.
Yes.
Right, because he never, as much as he was like himself on the field, he never let it come out in public ever. And I thought
that's why this summer was, I don't want to say surprising, but yes, this summer when him and Victor Cruz, Odell Beckham, and Ty Gurley? Yeah, Ty Gurley sat down and had that YouTube video just to hear Cam and Odell mostly talk so open about like their own experiences with racism, but also talk about just like racism and white supremacy in the NFL. And to like hear Cam in 2015 on the way to an MVP say one thing, which is basically his own form of all lives matter, to now, I feel like this is what Cam has always been, but unfortunately, a lot of black people, we have been taught that we have to play the game to get to where we need to go. And Cam fell into that. Cam fell into the, I have to play the game. I have to be this white bread black quarterback, even though I'm dabbing on the field and stuff like that. Even though I'm going to, do concerts with the Migos and J. Cole in Carolina and stuff like this. When it comes to me speaking up about my people and the plights that they go through, I gotta shut up and just play. Shut up and throw, so to speak. or for Cam's
See, because for me,
shut up and run.
see, for me, and that's why, because like when Cam came in the league, my boy actually went to the Panthers the same year.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got invested in Cam because my boy was like, nah, he's cool. And so I was like, yeah, I'm with that. Especially because he was hitting on him. He was a JUCO. I'm like, yeah, I'm with that. But when I heard him speak out, I kind of fell off. Like, come on, bro. Like, you can't be this good and be a sellout.
Right. But also his performance ended up going down too as soon as he said that.
I was like, that's what you're asking.
Right, me too. Right. I was a hater.
Well, all lives matter. That's why you ain't win, homie.
And you want to know something?
That's why God don't like ugly. God don't like ugly.
It's like
that was Jesus.
It's like I look at both of those situations though. It's like it's bigger than that, and I know both of y'all know that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's like I think about Cam, 2 years ago or a year and a half ago before he injured his shoulder, and Cam was completing 68% of his passes.
He was playing well.
The Panthers are like 6-2, and then he gets injured. But that leads to the overarching theme of that, where the Panthers, and this goes into that exploitation of black labor, they literally ran Cam into the ground. And that's why
they ran him on quarterback like power. Like what other team does that?
But look, that's what I was kind of concerned this weekend. Cam had 15 rushes for 75 yards, and he threw the ball. He was 15 for 19. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure because it's week one, the Dolphins got a good secondary. You're going to run the ball a little bit more anyway. And we know the Patriots. Tom Brady didn't start really throwing the ball until like 06, 07. Right. The Patriots won their first 3 Super Bowls, run the ball and do
running a rock.
Right, I get there kind of getting back to that, and Cam gives you an extra leeway with that RPO. But at the same time, I know Cam just came off of Liz Frank foot injury. I know he just came off a shoulder injury, and I do believe they will throw the ball more later in the season. Number one, because they'll have to. But I also get concerned when I see the Patriots say, we're going to run Cam 15 yards. And there was one play, it was like a 4th and 1. Cam had already scrambled for 5 yards. And then they said, well, let's run it again. And they ran a power right up the middle with Cam. And I just think about how we always, because Cam has the ability to run, it's like, yes, it's a good tool. But at the end of the day, Cam Newton is a strong arm quarterback. Mm-hmm. And they love to take black quarterbacks and just put them on their feet. And it's so ironic.
Well, remember when Ben Roethlisberger came in the league? He was this big, strong runner, but the Steelers wouldn't run him 15 times.
They wouldn't run him 15 times.
So what's the difference then?
What was that?
Let's talk about
what's that cat? What's Brad's name? And is he not in New Orleans anymore?
Taysom Hill?
No, Jason Hill.
Taysom Hill, he's still there. He had the first reception of the game this weekend.
Okay.
Yeah,
I ain't watched that game. but even they have him and he's like a little hybrid. They don't even run 5 times a game.
Right. Well, hold on. Taysom Hill don't get to run that much because he trash. It's so they make him a trick player. There's a reason they had Teddy Bridgewater, and there's a reason they brought Jameis Winston. Because the Saints know what these other races don't know. Taysom Hill isn't a real quarterback. This summer, they literally had people on their national radio shows talking about, I believe Taysom Hill is better than Lamar Jackson. Come on, bro. You telling me Taysom Hill, who's 29 years old already, the boy stayed at BYU till he was 30 years old. What they said on Bad Boys? I mean, that's at least 30.
At least 30.
At least 30. That's how I feel about
At least 30.
He wasn't a good passer.
Like Chris Winkie. Remember when Chris Winkie came into Florida State?
29.
Bro, what kind of rookie is you?
Drew Henson came in at like 24. It's just like, come on, bro. Taysom
But
Hill is trash.
anything past 25 is a little different.
Right. Taysom Hill is trash. And that's why Sean Payton keeps bringing in these talented black quarterbacks. Because number one, in New Orleans, you have to be and I think Drew Brees showed this summer, and Teddy Bridgewater showed last year in New Orleans, you have to be a player, regardless if you're black or white, that can fit in with the community.
Yes.
And so, like, New Orleans is going through a lot of gentrification right now. There's a lot of white people pushing out black people of those communities. But the things that everybody loves about New Orleans comes from black people. So when Teddy Bridgewater was riding his bike to the stadium, it was little black kids running behind him. When Teddy Bridgewater was going to high school football games, he was going to the football games of black schools. You know, Drew Brees wasn't doing that. And then Drew Brees comes out with his, oh my gosh, my grandfather fought in World War II. I don't care. Number one, they got a lot of black people who have ancestors who fought in World War II.
Especially in New Orleans.
Right. Your white grandfather ain't the only one. Number two, we know when those black people, thank you. We know when those black men came back from war, they weren't afforded the same.
We're getting killed in their uniform.
Shout out Colfax, Louisiana.
And that makes me think of like the Civil War. After the Civil War, every soldier was promised a certain amount of coinage, and black soldiers would come back and wouldn't get 3/4 of what they were owed. And then that doesn't go into like GI bills and stuff and like that to pay for colleges. That doesn't go into home loans and all these things where they redlined against black people. So Drew Brees, come on.
So then we have this generational, right, poverty, right, which is really just oppression. So then when we get to the NFL and these white folks boo us for showing unity with locking arms, we like, it's just gonna keep playing.
Yeah, because it's disrespectful to the truth. Oh my God.
It's disrespectful, and we need this check.
I'm gonna wear the American flag, even though it distinctly says I should not be doing that. I'm gonna sell the American flag for profit, even though I'm not supposed to be doing that. I refuse to do any sort of voting, anything, anywhere, because I'm so goddamn patriotic. I'm just not gonna do these things. But don't you dare kneel, and don't you dare not stand up and take off your hat for the national anthem.
Look, all I know is if white men see a white woman in an American flag bikini top, they ain't gonna see nothing wrong with it. But the fact of the matter is that is also desecrating the flag by making a garment of clothing.
Yeah,
that is a crime.
It's literally written in the bylaws.
That's all I'm saying. And so it's like, look, I'm tired of quarterbacks and people like Drew Brees saying these asinine statements like my grandfather fought in World War II. And then he tried to come back this summer 2 days later and be like, oh, I understand what was going on.
I understand. Right. 2 days ago I didn't, but then I did all this reading. And now
I got
2 days.
I got it in 2 days.
I watched the color purple, and now I understand. I get it.
Listen,
Harpo's that woman.
What was the movie? What was the, I know you know Eugene. What was the basketball movie? It was the Hurricane basketball movie about New Orleans.
Hurricane Season with Forrest Whitaker and Bow Wow.
I watched Hurricane Season, y'all. I understand systemic racism. I'm good.
Hey, and then you know.
I call Wayne and Boosie. Look,
and we got it all clear. I got it.
He said, guys, I understand. I too wipe me down. It's like, come on. You know, he posted that.
I almost spit my water all over this computer, and we almost messed this whole podcast up because that was elite. That was elite.
Y'all know he posted that.
We need to take that, whatever that clip was on the first thing we promote on the podcast.
Look, all I'm saying is, y'all know he posted that video of him doing that weak beanie weenie on Instagram multiple times. And it's like, look, bro, it's like you're not of the culture. And now people are understanding and they're seeing that you're not of the culture. And that's one of the things that you got to look at. If Drew Brees continues to come out and play how he plays, because you can see he's throwing ducks now. He already was, but it looks even more.
Baby getting old.
If Drew Brees gets injured again, or if he doesn't play well again, because the reason they lost in the playoffs the last 2 years, besides the refs, is Drew Brees. Let's just be real. If he doesn't come out and play again, that locker room of black players who saw what he said, regardless of
Black City.
In a black city,
Chocolate City.
How they changed their mind.
The original.
They're gonna remember that. And all I'm saying is, yeah, white people might be out on Jameis.
And I'm pretty sure they didn't change their mind. I'm pretty sure that we
they
think
get it.
labor. They was like, what y'all boys gonna do?
Right.
Y'all not gonna play with Drew Brees?
That's like,
right.
Malcolm Jenkins was right the first time. Like Malcolm Jenkins had to come back and clean up what he said.
You already know Malcolm Jenkins a whole ass op to begin with.
But and that's the thing though. It's like Malcolm Jenkins, we know he's an op as it pertains to Kaepernick and Eric Reed and the NFL Players Association and that work they were doing.
Oh my goodness.
And his op ass was smart enough to realize that Drew Brees was being an idiot. And so if you got the op understanding that you wrong, what does that make you? And that brings me to like a classic quote. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. And I don't agree with that. Both of y'all my enemy. I'm just gonna take him out first. That's facts. It's like I need to take Drew out first. Then I'll get to Malcolm. Because Drew is the real power. He's the CEO on the field. He's the quarterback. He's the face of the franchise. He's an extension of the front office and ownership. I get that. The same way in society, we need to do away with white supremacy and capitalism. In the NFL, we need to do away with people like Drew Brees. And then once we do away with people like Drew Brees, hey, Malcolm Jenkins, bring that ass here, boy. Got something for you. And I loved when Eric Reed called him out. I loved it. Because number one, Eric Reed's from Louisiana. And so I rock with Louisiana all day. I'm from Baton Rouge, BR225. Let's go. And so the fact of the matter is, when Eric Reed
he just banged on us.
No, he really did.
Neighbor program anyway. So if you don't know, SAC neighbor program. You feel me?
Right? Talk to him. And so like that's the thing, though. It's like, nah, bro. When that came out, I'm like, oh yeah. I'm like, yeah, that's that BR. That's that Dutchtown. That's that New Orleans coming out.
He was.
Because he didn't hold back. And that's what Eric Reed, in my opinion, like I know, and we're about to get to Kaepernick in a second. And in my opinion, Eric Reed, I love what he's been doing more than Kaepernick as it pertains to communicating with the people what's going on in these NFL rooms and what's going on in the league. Like Kaepernick, he did his kneeling for that season. He got kicked out of the league. He started doing his Know Your Rights protest. And basically after he did the settlement, Kaepernick came out and did his workout, said, I've been ready to play, tell him to stop running, and that was it. Eric Reed is like, hey, Malcolm Jenkins the ops. The owners offered this deal. Jerry Jones said this. And I'm like, yeah, talk to him. Like, I can tell.
Talk to me nice.
I can tell. Eric Reed had to just finish listening to Set It Off by Boosie before he delivered them tweets. Eric Reed was like, set it off.
That's food said, and the Caprice.
I'm telling you, he had to just finish listening to it before he let them tweets out.
He might have had that the mob.
Yeah.
That for sure.
That was hot. I mean, they also put no ceilings on everything, so he might have been it.
But
man. You know what though? I have to tell you, like, all these conversations that are stemming, starting from Kaepernick just laying down a really solid foundation, right? We're starting to really see like where people lie on this spectrum, right?
Like Kenny Stills, like the fact that Kenny has been down.
Yo, Boomer Sooner, Kenny Stills,
but,
like shout that boy out right now.
Let me give a shout out to Kenny Stills, because one of my homies, Desmond Collins, shout out to Desmond. He's frat. And Kenny Stills this summer offered to pay for people, and Kenny Stills didn't even let this be known, but Kenny Stills offered to pay for people to travel to Louisville, Kentucky to protest for Breonna Taylor. And if y'all remember, Kenny Stills got arrested there. He got detained. And like, I just got to shout out to Kenny Stills because number one, he didn't have to go there. Number two, he didn't have to pay for other Black people to come there to protest and exercise their right and let their voice be heard. But number three, he then showed, I'm not just out here for pictures, I'm about it. Like, come on. Big trust. Woo woo.
Big trust.
You know?
That's my boy.
And I think like you said, Whitney, like this has allowed like those things to be drawn, right? Like who's the ops, who's people, who's kneeling no matter what, who's still putting their fist up no matter what, who's getting forced out the league, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Early retirements, right?
Right. But even more importantly, too, who is getting comfortable with speaking their truth and getting into that, right? So, like, I was at OU with Kenny, and, you know, I didn't know him personally, but, like, through the grapevine, right? And to see the third person perspective of his growth has been fantastic. Like, that's been absolutely wild. And it's because of having several conversations over and over again. You keep getting better at it, right? Like with every sport, when you first start that sport, you're not good at it. When I first got my basketball in my hand, like, sure, I could shoot, but I couldn't dribble, right? You got to keep playing. This is what we got practice for. And so having these conversations, right? Having
living
some
the
wild
revolution.
boy tweets. Yeah, for real. And it really does start with one person. Like, it is the singular, the multiples of singularity that starts the revolution. It doesn't start as this monolith. It always starts on a little dot on the map. So, you know, big shout out to him too. And I always like it when it's no performative nonsense, right? When you're not yelling out to the world what it is that you're doing to help people in need.
Well, I mean, and like Marshawn is a great perspective of that. Like, if you guys remember, Sean was like, I've been sitting. Sounds like I ain't seen
forever.
I don't even know why y'all making a big deal out of this.
Right.
Yeah.
And then got up at the Super Bowl and called everyone as Africans. And
yes.
You know what I mean? Like, so black athlete activism has definitely been around. And I mean, Marcus Peters, again, shout out to the town, like shout out to the Bay.
Straight up.
I think, like, obviously, like, exactly, like, where
getting up in it.
Me and Whitney from the Bay, like, when you're from the Bay, naturally.
Yo, you see Lake Merritt behind me right now, like, always.
You're just naturally, Black radical politics and thought, and so I think, like, there you think about, like, the history of their activism, like Bill Russell, I mean, goes back, right?
Yes.
But like, speaking about your like geographic location though. And like, I think about the Bay, I think about Oakland, and that automatically leads me to think about like the Black Panthers. And then that automatically leads me to look at how Colin Kaepernick set up his first Know You Rights campaigns in Oakland. You know, because you have that.
Cap has been tapped in. Cap is tapped in with the folks on the ground. Like,
no, for real.
That reminds me of his tweet. Colin Kaepernick tweeted this weekend, while the NFL runs propaganda about how they care about Black life, they are still actively blackballing Eric Reid for fighting for the Black community. Eric set 2 franchise records last year and is one of the best defensive players in the league. And like you just mentioned, athletes being blackballed, athletes speaking up for their communities, and you like for early retirements and stuff like that. And I think Eric Reid and Kaepernick are a very good example of exactly that. And like I said, I may lean to a little bit more towards Eric Reid's actions and his outspokenness because number one, there's a location there. I've met him previously in person, and stuff like that at LSU. But it's just, I feel like a lot of Black athletes, they have made the choice to participate in the capitalistic system. And we're all forced to participate.
The Black League won't save us.
Yeah, and we're all forced to participate into it to some degree. But when you reach a certain level, there a certain responsibility does come with that. So yes, these athletes, including Kaepernick and Eric Reid, have chosen to participate in that capitalistic system. So one of the things that they're doing now and historically is using their voices to make things better perceived, to bring attention to things. And so I believe Eric Reid has done a really good job of not only speaking up for his community and what is going on and what is going wrong in that community, as it pertains to white supremacy and capitalism, but also Eric Reed has shown us the interworkings of the NFL. And I feel like when Eric Reed gives us those interworkings of the NFL, it's not just about the NFL. He's given us the interworkings of every single institution that is led by cisgender, heterosexual, rich white men.
Because it's the whole system it all falls under one thing.
Right. And so the thing is, like, a lot of people may take his words at face value and say, oh, he's talking about the NFL. When I hear it, I don't hear NFL. I hear institution. I hear like, okay, if this is happening here, we need to come for institutional change this way. And that brings me to Eric Reed's tweets from this weekend.
Right.
And it's two tweets. He said, what the NFL is doing is half-hearted at best. Facts. He says, Roger Goodell has gotten comfortable saying he was wrong, as if his mere acknowledgement reconciles his admitted wrongdoing. We're going to have a conversation about that sentence. He hasn't even called Colin to apologize, let alone reconcile, proving this is only PR for the current business climate. As such, Roger Goodell uses video of Colin courageously kneeling to legitimize their disingenuous PR while simultaneously perpetrating systemic oppression that the video he's using fights against. By continuing to rob Colin of his career is diabolical. Now, let me go back to that sentence.
So wait, that sounded like the Democratic National Convention to me.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh.
I'm sorry. I had to do it. I'm so sorry.
No.
Look, hold on. I wasn't like I'm not gonna really drop the mic because it's new, but I'm just saying.
Hey, look.
You know, really trying to break nothing, but
I ain't trying to break nothing. I can't. What my man Cat Williams said, I'm backstage messing up everything I can afford, flipping over cups, paper plates.
Listeners,
I couldn't drop it.
Listeners, I just want to tell y'all, once again, go vote.
Please go vote.
But let's get back to that sentence, though, because that sentence was profound. Roger Goodell has gotten comfortable saying he was wrong, as if his mere acknowledgement reconciles his admitted wrongdoing. Now, I think
all white people do.
Right, but that's what I was about to say. That's what I was about to say. I think we got to look at this two ways. Number one, we have to look at the white people who are participating, like Roger Goodell, by saying they're wrong, but not actually doing anything to change it. And that way, side note.
Shout out to Mitt Romney saying Black Lives Matter.
But side note, that brings me up.
Go take a walk, Jordan.
That brings up the video of when the white people were laying on the ground during their die-in, and they were saying, I renounce my white privilege. I renounce my white privilege. And I'm just like, y'all getting on my nerves. This is performance right here. Wow. But that was just a side note. But we have to look at that sentence two ways. We have to look at the white people who are behaving as if they know us wrong, but not doing anything about it. And we also have to look at the white people who know they're doing wrong, but not admitting it. Because the thing is, you gotta look at it. And I feel this is what separates Roger Goodell from some of the owners. And not just Roger Goodell. There are certain NFL owners who have tried to get out in front of the racial issue. Like we were talking about the Patriots earlier. Bob Kraft, and we know all his connections to Trump. We know his pseudo friendship or partnership because they were doing mass incarceration work with Meek Mill. We know all of these things. It's contradictory. But Bob Kraft is one of those owners that has tried to get out in front of it. Versus
picking up Cam.
Right.
Yeah, but
and they tweeted out Wakanda forever. Shut up. They Wakanda forever because Cam was like this after he scored.
But think about it. Think about it though. Right, like Bob Kraft is doing that at the same time, not really putting the effort in. He's the Roger Goodell of the world. But then you got the Bob McNair, and you got the Jerry Jones, the Texans and the Cowboys. And didn't Bob McNair say something about the inmates running the asylum or something like 2 years ago? And so you see that's that slave owner mentality right there. You know, that's where
our boys gonna play.
y'all boys gonna play. And and that's the thing. You gotta look at that sentence that Eric Reed, like I said, that sentence is profound because you gotta look at it in the ways where we do have these sometimes leftists, to use a political term, white people saying Black Lives Matter while actually not doing anything to help end white supremacy. But then you got the just simple, overt, what people would say traditional Southern racists who are just like, y'all niggas gonna do this and all that. And so, and I just realized I'm gonna have to put the child filter on this podcast. I'm sorry, but it's just like that's the thing though. And so for the NFL players, and this is like where you got to understand the art of war, because the NFL players, number one, they've entered into the system saying we're gonna take part in it. That's the first part. Number two, they are not, and this goes back into Malcolm Jenkins. They are not understanding who their enemies are. And I feel like that's one of the bigger issues. They're looking at their enemies as police and people who are practicing overt racism outside of their system, instead of looking at the people who are practicing systemic institutional racism inside of their system.
And that goes for anybody, right? Like it goes for anybody. Your typical 9 to 5. You're
again. What's the craziest thing you've done in the world, and it's work?
Go to work, right? But I mean, like even just dealing with the microaggressions that we have to deal with the day to day, just to make sure that we bring a paycheck home, right? So it just ends up being on a greater scale. And I think, at least for me, one of the things that fascinates me about the society that is NFL is how secretive it all is. So hearing about Reed's tweets is very interesting because it's like you get to peek through the bushes a little bit and see what's happening. You get a little bit more of the know-how of what's going on. If the first Black player that came up in the NFL was in 1920, why are we just not getting Black quarterbacks? Like 10 out of 32, but we're 70%, we said, right? 70% of the players are Black, but when we have 10 starting quarterbacks, that's wild to me.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And we could have had 11 with Cap. Jameis Winston could have did the same job that Tom Brady did.
Oh, wait. So I just read an article about that, right? When they were talking about how horrible of a job Brady did. And they were like, yeah, he pulled a Winston. Well, wait a minute now. Brady is like inching towards the end of his career, right? So we've had Winston who came in, he had, a couple of poor games and all of a sudden he's a D-rate athlete, yada, yada. But Brady almost threw his Super Bowl.
And so that makes me think of something else, right? So Jameis Winston has his faults. But I think about how in Jameis Winston's time at Tampa Bay, they never got him an offensive line.
Never.
I think, and that happens to a number of Black quarterbacks.
It happens to Black quarterbacks all the time. Then they get beat.
All the time.
Hell.
Yeah. And then their career ends early. I also think about though how
Robert Griffin.
Yeah, Robert Griffin got fed to the wolves by Mike Shanahan, and they kept on trying to push Kirk Cousins out there, and Kirk Cousins has been sucking for the last 5 years, but they kept trying to push him over RG3. In my opinion, RG3 had one of the best rookie seasons of all time, and I feel like if he didn't get pushed out there with that injured knee behind that line, running the read option, he would have had a great career. And this is my favorite thing, and I don't care if people consider it a hot take or not. RG3 had a better career than Andrew Luck after their first 2 years, even with the injuries. And in my opinion, if you look at the stats, RG3 was more accurate. He was providing more rushing yards. The touchdowns were like right there. He was like right behind him.
But that's the same perspective that all Black quarterbacks face. Right. As soon as they're literally not the best quarterback in the league, it's like, oh, he's burnt out. It's like, there's another quarterback that.
Right.
How rare is it that you're the best quarterback in the league year after year after year? And if you are, then you're a Hall of Famer and you're a guy that never leaves that team. And that's just super.
Right.
That happens to how many quarterbacks?
Exactly. And it makes me also think like of the irony now of where some kind of way, even after those horrendous injuries at the beginning of his career, RG3 is is still in the NFL and Andrew Luck has retired due to injuries. Because quiet as kept, Andrew Luck looked like the black quarterback when he was playing to me. He was getting 500 rushing yards a year. They was running his power formation quarterback plays. His game and Cam game looked very similar, but everybody was touting Andrew Luck as the new face of the NFL, the new great white hype, and that's another reason why it's interesting for me to see, like, going into next year, the top two players at the boards, Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence, coming from college, and it's just like, number one, Trevor Lawrence is out here, on his Black Lives Matter, we need to do better talk, while your coach is out here saying players don't need to be played. We need to stay over here and practice and play football. Come on, bro.
Could be not one black player that plays for Debo Sweeney.
Right.
Yeah, like, I don't get, like, I made a tweet and some Alabama fans got mad, but Nick Saban was leading his players. He'll
do the Cupid shuffle. He'll lead a Black Lives Matter protest.
He was leading the players in a Black Lives Matter protest, and I said, at least
he probably drinking Henny and smoking blacks at Uncle House when he going to visit.
Look, we y'all people talk about Uncle Shay Shay. Nah, it's Uncle Nick. It's Uncle Nick. Nick Saban, I said it. Nick Saban would do whatever he has to do to continue exploiting black players. He will put on all the smiles. He will go to all of the neighborhoods. He will march at all the Black Lives Matter protests. He will give all of the Camaros and Chargers that he can find. He would do all of these. He would do all of these things, and those players would come. And I'm like, you got Ed Orgeron, you got Dabo Sweeney, who they just like, nah, like, I'm gonna get with my white supremacy and keep it moving. If the players gonna be stupid enough to come to me, so be it. Like, Ed Orgeron, no, like, let me talk about Coach O for a second. Coach O, first, he went on TV and went on radio and said that Donald Trump was doing a great job. But today, literally today, he said, yeah, most of our players have got COVID, except a few. And we're good, though. We're good now. And I'm just thinking, like, wow, LSU forces me to come to work 2 days a week. And y'all know the whole football team got COVID, and they just led a Black Lives Matter protest on campus. Like, come on, bro. Come on. And so how can you tell me you care about black players if you're putting them in these predicaments?
You don't care about your players, period.
Exploitation.
Look,
for the last,
and we just join it. So, like, again, really what we're trying to get at is, like, why these cats play after they got booed? There's no way. As a man, as a grown man who has a job, who is professional, if I am in my place of work and I try to sell, I didn't even protest the anthem. I'm going to lock arms because we're just going to say we want unity, and y'all boo me, bruh. I got to walk off. I got to walk out. We can't play. We just can't.
I agree. They, like, I feel like the Texans and the Chiefs, especially with Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes leading those teams in the center of the locker room, they should have walked off. Because this is the fact. Let's be real now. The face of the NFL for the next 10 years is black. Rather it be Patrick, rather it be Russell, rather it be Deshaun, or rather it be Lamar. The face of the NFL is black. And that's another reason why they're holding on to Trevor Lawrence.
Kyler Murray. Even Kyler
Murray. That's why they're holding on to Trevor Lawrence, though. Trevor Lawrence has to be the next great white hype who can be the face of the NFL. Because if he doesn't break through, your number one commodity, and yes, I said commodity, your number one commodity is a black face. And if those black faces decide we're going to walk off, we're the quarterback, we're the extension of the front office, we're the CEO on the field, it changes things. And that's why it's like I can give blame to like pro athletes, and then at the same time I gotta cut some slack. Because I think about us. A lot of us, people in normal situations, we're not willing to walk off of our jobs either to protest Black lives. You know, we might do the work, we might go in our community, but a lot of us not gonna sacrifice our paycheck either. Now the thing is, they have more responsibility because they've been able to make millions of dollars, or if they haven't made millions, if they're like a rookie, they've made hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Kwame Ture said that any advancement that the people get, right, that any individual Negro or any individual African gets, is out of the blood of the masses, right? Is out of the labor of the people, and so they have a responsibility, right, to help the people, or they're betraying the blood of the people. And so my thought is, like you said, I understand what you're saying is that the regular people wouldn't protest, or they wouldn't leave their job to protest. But these cats understand the leverage that they have, because LeBron has a lifetime Nike deal. If LeBron says, listen, we're all going to go play at the Rucker, we're not playing in the NBA, and we're all going to the Big Three, like, bruh, that actually changes things. Or again, if they say we're not playing until this happens, that power can get shifted.
Because I agree with you. I agree with that. And I think, but the issue here is I don't think they understand their leverage. And I think that goes into an educational aspect of rather that be home upbringing, rather that be on your own, but you have to have some type of liberation theology. You have to have some type of political education, because I look at it this way, right?
You got to read the book.
You got to read the book. You have to do the reading. And
you got to do the Googles.
And at least listen to the podcast if you're not going to Google something.
Right. You like there's so many
Spark Note
audio book, something, bro.
There's so
I'm just saying, LeBron got the book. LeBron holding the book. Don't read the book. We got to read the book. Dog.
Look, all like I said,
just read the book, dog.
There's so many ways to get the knowledge now. There's so you can't have an excuse.
And that's what I'm saying. I guess that's what I'm saying when I say that they understand their leverage. Like you should understand your leverage because it's all out there for you. And if you make that much money, there's no reason you can't say you don't have a resource to it. You could call Dr. Angela Davis and ask her to come sit down and talk to you. You could,
right, for sure.
Yeah. And so that's where I agree with you. And I think my other point though is we have to start looking at how we have been forced into this slave-like mentality in this capitalistic white supremacist system. Because growing up, we're all told that economic mobility is the way for us to have freedom. That's what we're told. If you get money, if you get rich, you're good. And that goes into that same thinking of like, oh, that's the respectability politics. Oh, I'm middle class, or oh, I'm rich, or oh, I have this career. Police brutality couldn't happen to me. Like I always think about Dr. Henry Louis Gates going to his house and being arrested for police thinking he was going to be breaking into his own house. Right. And we're talking about a doctor, a professor who's on TV. All of us ain't on TV, you know? And so I think about just how we have this slave-like mentality of where we're saying like economic mobility is the only way out. And when it comes to athletes, they got the economic mobility. And so what they'll do is they'll say, well, how am I going to help my community? I'm going to go back and I'm going to give a football camp. Or I'm going to go and for Thanksgiving or Christmas, I'm going to give out, free turkeys or, free meals or free presents or stuff like that. And it's not enough. And that's where my problem comes in. Because it's like I have mixed emotions about LeBron James as a basketball player. I also have mixed emotions about LeBron James as an activist and as a leader. But as it pertains to celebrity, like giving back, I believe his school is the best thing a celebrity has ever done.
Yes.
As it pertains to just like doing the work. Like he created a school that can impact the lives of thousands of people, not only now, but in the future. Like that school can help his community create generational wealth if that's what they want to do. It can help them gain education if that's what they want to do. So I have to applaud LeBron for that. And so when I see a football player or NBA player, celebrity, whoever, say, yeah, I'm going to come back to my city and I'm going to give a football camp. And my question is, and what else? I'm going to give out presents for Christmas. And I'm going to give out meals for Thanksgiving. And what else? And so as much as I think LeBron still has a ways to go, because LeBron doesn't understand his leverage right now. He doesn't. Because
I don't believe that.
Read the book, nigga.
I'm gonna tell you why though.
We know LeBron didn't read the book. Let me finish. Like, hold on 1 second. This is why I believe LeBron doesn't understand his leverage. Because as Jordan said, LeBron got a lifetime Nike deal. LeBron is worth upwards of $600 million, and he probably got like 4 years left of playing. LeBron is the most recognizable athlete on the planet. LeBron still didn't have the cojones, and it takes me a month to explain it to you, to say, I'm going to not come to Orlando and play in this bubble. The rumors.
Had his little brother telling him.
The rumors were, Kyrie said, y'all, we can have our own league. If we go play, it's going to distract from this. We're not going to be able to do the work. And then Jacob Blake gets shot in Kenosha, Wisconsin, 7 shots in the back. He's now paralyzed.
And then we get a teenage white supremacist running around playing Call of Duty.
Right. And then what is NBA players do? The NBA players go on strike for a day. And they say, well,
they call Obama.
And they called Obama neoliberalist. But they said,
he said, no player strikes. Yeah, drone strikes. He was doing a Drake.
but look, they said we're gonna turn arenas into voting precincts. We're gonna have more. We're gonna get all the NBA players registered to vote. Which, number one, y'all are over 18. Y'all can be registered already. But nothing. They said they're gonna create marketing
commercials.
They're gonna create marketing commercials to get the word out there. And when you tell me you got. But wait, hold on. Let's look at. Let me side note. Let's look at some more black labor, even of billionaires. Y'all know who the owner was who was doing the mediating between the players and the owners? Michael Jordan, the black guy. So even in that instance, the black guy has to be the one that does the labor, and he's part of the billionaires.
And sold us out. And so
this, you got 30 billionaire owners, 29 of them white, and all you get is a couple voting precincts, you get a couple commercials, and you register NBA players to vote. And that's why I say LeBron doesn't understand his leverage, and LeBron doesn't have the knowledge. Because, or you know what, Whitney, you may be right. LeBron may understand his leverage, and LeBron is just doing what all rich people do, and that's participating in capitalism and acting like he's gonna get it for other people. But
exactly.
I'm gonna stick with my original thought though, and say he doesn't understand, because we all know he didn't get past page 4 of that Malcolm X book.
All right, look.
But this is the thing. He is so smart in every other aspect of life. So you mean
that's how you know
he doesn't know?
He's okay. Look, man. This is where we're not talking about here, though. If we're not looking at WNBA right now, and what those women are doing for social justice, you cannot say that another player can't look at what they're doing. They are literally the prototype right now.
Let me ask you 2 questions.
In with the people doing the work.
I'm just saying, bro. Like, shout out Natasha Cloud, right? Shout out Renee Montgomery.
Let me ask you 2 questions.
Footsteps right now.
Let me ask you 2 questions. So number one, we talk about LeBron's intelligence and everything else, and my question is that LeBron's intelligence or his team? That's my first question. That's my first
question. Okay, so wait. Let me answer that. Hold on. As far as on the court basketball player, we know his intelligence is there.
Yeah, on the court.
Hold on. So then we know that his off the court basketball intelligence, his ability to recall possession after possession after possession is there. Mm-hmm. So that is, I understand it has to do with basketball, but he also can articulate. He can also articulate it. Hold on. So he knows how to take something and bring it to someone else. We've seen, even if it's his team, but we've also seen him on podcasts hold these conversations, these tough, difficult conversations. We've seen him talk about being a dad, about being a husband. We talked about business. Regardless of, we're going to say that his team sat there and teleprompted everything bro's going to say. Hell no.
But okay, let me ask you.
So let me answer your first question though. Okay, go on.
So my question for Jordan is, so number one, Jordan, you're an educator, just like I am. So you know there are different types of education and learning. So because he's educated in that way, doesn't mean he can educate himself and retain things in other ways. Let's be real right there. Because there's also things going into like emotional intelligence, emotional education, being able to regulate right from wrong, all these different things. There's different types of education. Number two, we can also go to these, what's the show on HBO, The Shop? We can go to The Shop and we can look at how heavily edited they are. And we can also look at how far they didn't go in those conversations. Those conversations were very tame. And so that's my thing. Even if it
So
is
maybe
LeBron,
it's surface level. It's surface level.
It's very surface level. And my second question, because like shout out to the WNBA, shout out to Maya Moore, shout out to Natasha Cloud, shout out to all of those players doing that. And
Skylar Diggins-Smith.
Some people might not like this. They not doing enough either.
Nah, we're not going there.
Yes.
Mm-mm.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No, sir. They are literally outperforming every other athlete, period. And if they had a little bit extra in between their legs, they would get the respect and recognition that they deserve.
So
I'm not allowing it. No, sir.
So listen, they get respect as the number one athletes doing it. But it's more than athletes in this fight. And that's the conversation we're having. We're talking about athletes who have platforms who aren't doing all of the work in their community. And because the WNBA have led the walkouts, because a few of them have done the great work fighting mass incarceration.
Maya Moore has, Maya Moore.
And I think Maya Moore is like a GOAT, the legend. And I'm not talking about basketball.
Yes.
I'm talking about social justice.
But if we're gonna say that Maya Moore is doing it, then we have to shout out Natasha and Renee because they did the same thing. They dropped out the season for the same thing.
And so that's the thing.
I think that's what he's saying is that's the point, right?
That's 3 players. That's my point.
It's enough.
It's not enough.
We all gotta do it. It's gotta be collective.
We can give them props for being the social justice advocates that they are. Because as it pertains to athletes and entertainers, the WNBA got it. They got it. And when we're talking about
a mass organization labor strike.
When we're talking about capitalism, when we're talking about white supremacy, they're not doing enough. And like I said, like especially shout out to those women who get like cut their careers short possibly, who definitely ended their seasons. And side note, shout out to Kyrie for paying those women who are sitting out of his own pockets. But the fact of the matter is, when we're talking about celebrities and athletes,
he could have came back and played too.
They're not doing enough. And that's
the whole thing for me though, where I say that we got to really talk about them more and give them their props more, is that the entire association, that is WNBA, decided that the 2020 season, even going up into 2021, is all targeted with social justice. So I do understand you saying, do your boycotts, do this, do that. But when you have them, and we're not talking about performative, Black Lives Matter kind of, we're talking about an association that's legitimately down in the trenches doing the work and supporting their team. And we're not just talking about the athletes, we're talking about the coaches, and we're talking about the owners as well. And that is phenomenal work.
Let me ask a question.
Owners.
What is the parent organization of the WNBA?
I don't know, actually.
It's the National Basketball Association.
But even then.
And so once again, I give props to the women because the women players are leveraging their ability for social justice and advocacy better than the men in the NBA. Way better. It's not even a competition. And when as it pertains to doing the work, it's still right here. It's still, they can still do more. They can still do more. That's my only point. As it pertains to athletes and celebrities doing work, they get it. They got it. They are the best, and they deserve all of the respect, love, moderation, and everything that comes with it. And we're talking about athletes using their platforms to change the world. We're talking about entire organizational strikes. We're talking about.
If you think about it,
we're talking about continued protests and boycott. Because the same day the Bucks went on strike because Jacob Blake being shot, the WNBA players came out there with T-shirts that had 7 shots in their back, and people like that. I feel like I'm not really sure about it. And so they didn't strike that day. They didn't strike. They've been doing this work. They said the season is dedicated to social justice, and the parent organization, even though it has separate leadership, is still the NBA.
So I understand that part, right? But I guess for me, I'm focusing more on the leadership part, right? Because like I said, I think the leadership part is phenomenal. I don't know if I would strike myself if I'm with them. I wouldn't see the point of doing it. NBA for sure, if I'm a male athlete. NFL, absolutely, without a doubt. But if I
feel like the women don't have enough leverage based on watching power.
I actually think that their sacrifice and let's be honest, social justice in America has been on the backs of Black women since the beginning of time anyway.
1,000%.
So it's just history repeating itself, right? It's the status quo. But their sacrifice, being only paid a fraction of what the NBA players are, even though they are just as, if not more talented, it's like, okay, you're going to sacrifice that, and you're going to sacrifice your well-being for your family and everything else to make sure that your society gets to a higher playing field, right? It's the carrot that we were talking about a couple days ago, right? When you said, okay, you got your carrot and you got your stick. You're going to keep following this carrot, and I'm going to keep hitting you with this stick to make sure you keep going so we can get to that end game. What's the end goal? And so right now, I think that they have hit this new plateau, and I'm very proud of them. Of course, we're not done. We don't stop here. But this is great for right now in 2020 for what they're doing. And I think that they're the leaders, right? So when we say that LeBron didn't open up that book past page 5, like, you didn't even have to read the whole book, bro. All you have to do is just go to Twitter, okay? Listen, go ahead and give Maya Moore a call since you want to go watch WNBA play anyway. You're going to go see the games, talk to the girls afterwards. They let you know. They'll give you the cliff notes of what they're doing. It takes 5 minutes of your time. If you can get out of the game because you got to, do your recording for the shop, you cannot play a game for social justice. Low management, right?
I agree with that. And it takes me back to capitalism. The minimum salary for the WNBA is $57,000. The minimum salary for the average American is $33,000. When you want to think about the minimum salary for Black people, that is $18,406. So even though they're sacrificing more than the NBA player, they still are making more than the average Black person in society.
That I also can agree on.
And that's why there's levels to the work you do. And so that's why I was saying earlier.
That's why, yeah.
That's why I was saying earlier, I got to kind of cut athletes some slack a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit, especially for the WNBA, because the WNBA is doing really good work. Like I said, they could do more, but they're doing really good work. But when we talk about white supremacy, dismantling white supremacy, when we talk about dismantling capitalism, we got to look at the 100,000aires, the millionaires, and be like, hey, y'all know y'all got to come up off that. And right. and for a lot of the WNBA players, they fall into that. And it's just like, as Black women, they are doubly disadvantaged. Even like in their job, but even more often off of their job. And that's healthcare, that's income, that's everything. So like you have to bring that into view when you're having this conversation. Mm-hmm. And you also have to look at how we all have a duty. And it's like, I'm not rich, but like I even have a duty. So it's like I can say I protest, I can say I give money back to my community, I can say I participate on boards in my community, I can say I educate, I can say, I do simple community service, all of these things. And the question is always, Eugene, what more can you do?
Yes, I agree with that.
How can I be in collaboration with other people?
I was thinking about that today. Right? So I'm like driving and I'm thinking about, like in my selfish moment, I'm like, okay, man, I need to tip my windows, right? And so then I thought, there's like things I need to get at the house for the kids or for my wife, right? So I started thinking about, like, why do I do that? Why would I, right? And then so I started thinking about, so you start thinking about sacrifice and love, right? And so I started thinking about, well, my dad showed me this, right? My dad would wear clothes until they was deep, right? To make sure that I had newer stuff, right? And so it was the love that my dad could give me. And I thought about this love that my Heavenly Father then gives me, right? And so I think it, like you said, Eugene, it goes to this idea of like, we have a duty to love on these people. And so I wanna like, I know, like, I feel like what Eugene is saying is regardless of what they're doing, right, especially in the WNBA or even NBA, NFL, they have a responsibility to do the work every day or to somehow be in that work every day. So, for example, like Eugene said, what more can I do? So there's no reason that these players in the NFL, in the NBA, and the WNBA aren't running programs like how we have Sac Neighbor. Like,
Right.
program who would providing mutual aid. Like the Panthers were doing this with selling newspapers. And you know what I'm saying? The Nation was doing it, selling bean pies, and Martin was doing, you know what I'm saying, with donations, a church, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? That's how this work has been done by people who get it, and they did those work at huge levels, right? And their funding was here. We have people who are in this capitalist society who have found a way to commodify themselves, whether it be through being an athlete or being an entertainer or an actor or whatever, and they are not committing themselves to doing this work that is a daily process of, like we just talked about earlier, like the like we have to live out the revolution, right? So if we're not actively, you know what I'm saying, I got a bunch of money and I like you just said, I come and do a turkey feed and I run a camp and I got an AAU team, you feel me? It's good. I let the folks, right? And I put out the videos. But if I'm not like actively in the field every day working with the people, right, then I'm just not doing enough. It's kind of, I think, what Eugene is saying, right?
Yeah, and that's going back. That's why I said I do have to give props to LeBron, because I do think that school thing is the greatest thing I've ever personally seen, like an activist. I'm sorry, not an activist, an athlete or entertainer do.
Wait. Okay, because it's long term and it's Maya Moore did get somebody out that was about to die.
Yeah. No.
Whole life. But
Jonathan
I feel you
Irons.
because we're looking at, again, with the school, there's going to be tens of thousands, tens of hundreds, if not thousands of kids in and out. Be changed forever.
So let's word it like this. I think Maya Moore had one of the greatest, if not the greatest, sacrifice of an athlete's career that I've ever seen. But I think LeBron's action of opening a school that can change Akron for generations is the best like action I've ever seen. Just like you said, we already see change now. Like all of those kids get an automatic scholarship. Like their parents are entering job programs and getting jobs like right now. Like he's literally changing the lives of a group of people and of an entire city. And so like I have to give LeBron like props for that. I feel like that's the greatest thing ever. And at the same time, I feel like LeBron could do more. I feel like LeBron can leverage being almost a billionaire. I can feel LeBron can leverage having a Nike deal. I feel like LeBron can leverage.
He should have leveraged the strike.
Because let's be real. The NBA players should have never went to Orlando.
Should have never went to Orlando. And then when Jacob Blake gets shot, you can't play after that.
Right. And so or let me word it like this. The NBA players shouldn't have went to Orlando till they actually got substantive change and action from owners. Because if their whole
they could have got what they got after the strike before they went to Orlando.
Before they went. And like we said, we also know what they got from the strike isn't enough. And so like that's my thing. Like once again, shout out to the WNBA players because they doing it. They, as it pertains to athletes, they are the ones. And it brings me to that conversation of once we dismantle white supremacy, we still got to dismantle capitalism in our communities. Right. But then after we dismantle capitalism, we have to dismantle patriarchy. We have to dismantle misogynoir, and that's specifically talking to the ills of Black women. We have to dismantle homophobia and transphobia, ableism, all of these things. And so it's like white supremacy is for most people, for most Black people, because we put race before gender and, class, all that good stuff, etc.
Which is wild.
That's the first thing. That's the first thing. And it's like once we dismantle white supremacy, there's still gonna be so many problems. And we have to realize that like for black men and the problems that we present, not the ways that we are oppressed, but the problems that we present, our patriarchy is directly and our misogynoir is directly connected to white supremacy. And when we talk about the ways that black women are oppressed, all of these things are duly connected. And so it's like, yes, we're taking the first step and we're asking NBA players, NFL players, athletes everywhere to dismantle white supremacy. And really we're asking them to leverage their talent and their abilities and their notoriety to get white people to help dismantle white supremacy. You know, that's like the main thing we're doing. And right now they're not doing that. Like right now they're just basically like edging on, like, okay, we're gonna get this little voting precinct. We're gonna get all the NBA players registered to vote.
It's neo-colonialism. It's just neo-colonialism.
We're gonna call Obama. And it's just like
we gonna call Obama.
It reminds me, like, you beat me to it. I was just about to say it reminds me
Obama. The Obama. Okay. Drone strikes, no player strikes, player. Drone strikes, no player strikes.
Right. Drone strikes, no player strikes.
Y'all are out of control right now.
But that's the thing though. Like this entire conversation stemming from week 1 with the NFL has been about like the ills of these players and the organizations and their responsibilities to help end white supremacy. You know, and I think we've come to the conclusion, and it's something that we already knew, that none of these people are doing enough.
Performative politics.
Yeah.
And so
performative is really out of control. But like, how do we encourage people by letting them know, like, okay, yeah, this was great what you did, just like you said, because you know, I do agree. This is cool for a first step, WNBA, but what's next, right? NFL, y'all not doing enough. So like, let's get on the gas. Like, how do we continue to encourage these conversations and we continue to encourage forward marching? Where's
it's hard, right? Because like we said, if LeBron don't want to read the book, we can't help you.
Right.
I can't help you build the grassroots programs in your neighborhood, in your city, and wherever you at that are going to help lead to liberation on a daily basis. You're not willing to read the book, dog. If you
like you said,
you're not willing to.
Like you said, though, Jordan, these people have the ability to get in contact with like anybody they wanted to. Like if they want to talk to Angela Davis, if they wanted to talk to, you know, even someone who isn't as like liberal or as an activist, like somebody like Michael Eric Dyson, who has like political education, or like a Mark Lamont Hill, somebody, they have access. Or Ta-Nehisi Coates. Look, hell, they can have a conversation with Bomani Jones and tell him to call his dad, Mac Henry Jones, who was expelled from Southern University. Shout out my alma mater. But then he eventually became a doctor one day. And he's a professor in political science. Met the guy, he's amazing. Like, you have access to these people. You have
Let's go run an exhibition game. Let's go run an exhibition game as a fundraiser in Cuba for a Saturday.
You know, and that's the thing. It's like they, and I think that's another issue that I have with them. Like, I don't have the ability. Well, I mean, I have the ability to reach some people through my work, but I don't have the ability to reach every rich person or person of notoriety, or even in like liberation circles, every person that has fought for abolition or even reform. I just don't have that. I don't have that reach. I don't have that access. LeBron has that access. The NFL, you know, Colin Kaepernick, the NFL players, all of them, they have that access.
Why did they call Cap? Cap doing work.
I think because he doesn't want the glitter and the cameras and the stars, right? Like, you could literally find him downtown on San Pablo and West Grand in Oakland any given day, feeding those homeless people out there, getting them supplies.
I know he been tapped in with PBO and.
No, for real. I literally almost hit this man with my car. Sorry. Like, literally, like, I mean, he just really be out there. I was in a rush. I wasn't paying attention. It was embarrassing.
Dumb. In the Bay Area, we dance a little different.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
my bad.
It like, oh, shit, my bad.
Listen to Mac Trainer like this.
You know, like even
She got the things in the whip.
I know for real. With my tinted little
Right, you over here
like,
thin space. You over here thin space and Colin like, move, gas, brake.
Had to burn rubber
Right.
thing, pop
I'm about to
somebody.
burn rubber. Burn rubber any quick as hell.
They're moving. Gotta get through them potholes, you know. Libby Shaft ain't taking care of them roads.
Libby Shaft ain't doing nothing for y'all.
She ain't doing
Hey,
nothing,
but
boy.
it's like I think, but that's a good question though. Like, why aren't these players calling up Kaepernick?
Nobody backed him, and it's like it's just the same thing though, and that's why it's hard to cut him slack because it's like, bruh, someone did it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You said there's folks who are down. There's Eric. There's Kenny. There's cats who have been doing this work, and it's like, why can't y'all rock in solidarity?
Right. Yeah, and it's I think one of my things. So throughout over the years since 2016, I've had mixed feelings about Kaepernick and just everything. Because I don't believe Kaepernick kneeling during the national anthem was a protest. I do believe it was to bring awareness. You know, he was using his platform, and this is what we're basically asking these current players to do. Mm-hmm. We're using this platform to bring awareness to something. And of course, as white people are known to do, they try to take it and change the subject. Make it about the flag, make it about the military, something else. But then after Kaepernick was no longer in the league, Kaepernick started doing the work. Like he started when he was in the league, but you know, once he didn't have no job,
right. And it was blatant.
You ain't got no job. It's Friday.
Right. And so, but my question is, I got a couple questions. My first question is, why have Black people never boycotted the NFL anyway? And the reason I ask that question is, Colin Kaepernick was like a season or two away from not being in the NFL anyway. Not because of his talent, but because he's a Black mobile quarterback. And we know those quarterbacks have a shelf life in the NFL, not because of their talent or ability, but because of who they are and how ownership and coaches
views them.
And so
and how they're treated by the refs, by like we talked about Cam, all of those things play into that.
Right. And so like my first question is like, after we've seen what happened to like maybe Vince Young, or after we've seen what happens to Cordell Stewart or Reggie McNeil and Brad Smith before they got to the league, you know, or Michael Vick and Donovan McNabb in the league, Cam Newton, RG3, like we knew, Randall Cunningham, Warren Moon, Doug Williams, we knew that these players have a shelf life because they're Black quarterbacks. So Kaepernick had a shelf life already. His protest just expedited the process.
Right.
And so my thinking, one of my questions have always been, because the question has been, and this is what people would love to use against Kaepernick, was Kaepernick talented enough to stick in the NFL? We know he was. We know he was. And the fact of the matter is, when it comes to Kaepernick, if Kaepernick in 2016 was Cam Newton, would this have went the same exact way? Because Cam Newton was coming off an MVP in 2015, and right. was the Super Bowl the Super Bowl 2015? I think it was 15. So yeah, Cam Newton was like coming off a Super Bowl. If Cam Newton would have took his cachet and did what Kaepernick did, would it have turned out differently? I think so. I'm not saying he would. I'm not saying Cam would have gotten the change that he was seeking. I'm simply saying Cam would have still been in the league because he was just like
if a player like LeBron, Steph, someone who is bona fide in the league,
right,
says something compared to someone else.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because it's like Kaepernick. I think Kaepernick should still be in the NFL now, like to this day. Shouldn't have missed the game. To this day.
Shout out to Deontay Wilder.
Shout out to him, man. That interest with D-Smoke was so nice in that battle, but he lost, man.
Man.
But like, Kaepernick, he had just experienced injuries, so people was questioning his ability to stay healthy now. Number one, that's exacerbated because he is a black quarterback.
This is the thing. If you actually watch the film, because I'm a Niners fan, right? So I actually watched the film. He played extremely well.
Oh yeah, he had 16 touchdowns, 4.
And that was with no receivers. I think the receivers were like top 3 in the league in drops. He played extremely well. And I had been extremely critical of Cap before. Wanted Alex Smith to remain the quarterback, thought like he gave us a better chance to win.
Oh, you was tripping.
I'm telling you, like watching because Cap really struggled for a long time with especially with the Seahawks, how they rolled their safety.
Yeah, he was too flighty, way too flighty. That boy could not stay still for a second.
But he couldn't make that pass.
But you know what? Though, that's actually what I was going to say earlier. Because honestly, and I really do believe this, his days were numbered because they were going to run that man to the ground anyway. He didn't have to kneel to be blackballed. He had already had some injuries coming in. He was playing off of injuries. He would have gotten hurt and just been done honestly, I think this is probably the best route for him to have gone. And Jordan, correct me if I'm wrong. Like, I can't stand the Niners, right? Like, I've been hating the Niners for my whole life. It's Raiders to the death of me, even though they left. But so for me, I always thought that that's how that was gonna go. Can't stay in the pocket, a little too flighty. They overworked that man. He didn't have no help for offense, really, and he was gonna get hurt.
Yeah. Like I said, I really struggled with his play early on. I thought he was successful early that year when he came in when Alex got hurt because it came with RG3, like they just didn't know how to game plan him.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that next year I had a lot of doubts going through the season. Obviously, I was like, why do you throw that at Sherman? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I had a lot of doubts. And again, I was really like, man, Alex Smith with this defense, again, understanding the defense of the Niners.
Yeah, Patrick Willis and all them.
So keep Alex Smith, let him be a game manager, and you're gonna win a Super Bowl because of your defense is so talented. Right. And we kind of, so like you said, coming off the injury, things like that. But even going back, right, like thinking about even the years that I wasn't a huge Cap fan, think about the hate that he got those first years because of his tattoos.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we kind of overlook that. Like we forget, like Cap battled this black quarterback stigma his entire career, right? Like he'd be a CEO with all those tattoos and he kisses his tattoo. And then he was like, it's a Christian thing. And then it was like, oh, well, but Cap has battled that his whole career.
And that's like basically my main point. It's like Colin Kaepernick was going to be blackballed regardless.
Right.
And so as it pertains to black people, once he was blackballed from his sport because of his protests, we were like, okay, we're not going to watch the NFL anymore. And I'm like, hey, y'all, Colin Kaepernick was about to be blackballed. He was in the midst of it happening. It was coming shortly. We've seen it happen to all the other black quarterbacks. And it leads me to think about how we think about liberation. And that's why I asked the question. Because when Colin Kaepernick made the step, we were like, some of us were like, all right, we're not going to watch football. And others were like, I'm going to still watch football. And it goes to, we didn't boycott the NFL when they were blackballing black quarterbacks the entire time, or black coaches, And so it's kind of like, where are our priorities? And this is not about Kaepernick, it's about us. Where are our priorities? How do we take up for a player who does make the stands? Like I said, shout out to Kyrie. When Kyrie said, I'm going to give this money to pay for those WNBA players' salaries who decide to sit out or who decide just not to play this year due to COVID. Because the thing is, he's making sure that those people, those women, can stay on their feet. They're taking the stance and he's backing them up. And if rich black people were going to say, hey, we got these black people taking the stance all day, we're going to pay all bail funds, we're going to pay for all of the resources when they go protest, we're going to pay for lawyers and all of this, I might be a little bit more inclined to say y'all keep making y'all money. You know, as much as I will allow in a capitalistic system. Let me say that. But you know, it's like they have different ways that they can help. And as it pertains to Kaepernick, we don't, and maybe it did happen, but we don't know personally of a lot of players reaching out to him for information, for advice, for help. We also don't know of a lot of Black people who actually gave up the NFL because of Kaepernick being blackballed. You know, and so it kind of goes into where is our stance on liberation, but my other question is also, where does Kaepernick stand on liberation? Because Kaepernick he risked his career, and as of now, unless something happens in the next couple weeks this season, I feel like his career is over. This is because of the onslaught of media attention that's now happening with protests and Roger Goodell saying he's wrong, and EA Sports working out a personal deal with Kaepernick to get him back on the game. I feel like if he gets back in the league, it's going to be this year. It's going to be right now. If it doesn't happen now, it's not going to happen, which would mean his career ended in 2016 at 29 years old. But since Kaepernick's career has ended, he's gotten a book deal. He's got a settlement with the NFL. I mean, Cap, he ain't out here struggling. He might be on St. Paul and Oakland feeding the homeless, but Cap is not an unhoused person.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so where does Kaepernick stand on liberation? Because once again, we cannot separate capitalism from white supremacy.
I think that's very true. You know, but then that just goes back to shout out Kobe. This one's just for you, Jordan. That commercial that Kobe did with Kanye. He goes, more successful.
But I'm already
more. Are you the same beast but a different animal? Right? Like
right?
So you just gotta keep your shit back, right? More.
What the are you talking about, Kobe Bryant?
More. More.
Right. Like me? How, man? How much more successful can I be? More successful.
More successful.
So, you know,
more towards liberation.
More towards it. Like it's that continuous
keep living it.
Yeah. You gotta keep following the trail.
We were supposed to have an hour podcast. This time went 2 hours.
So no, we
might be long-winded.
We never put a time limit on the podcast. You know, we never put one on there. But hey, for the listeners, if they enjoy it, that's the perfect thing. If
y'all rocking with us, y'all rocking with us.
Right,
y'all rocking with it. Because there'll be some weeks we come in here and our podcast is 45 minutes. You know? And
it was quick today, y'all.
It was quick today.
Today is long-winded.
We're gonna do a church goodbye.
You know? And
they gonna start playing a song in the background.
Right.
We start frying some chicken.
But like, okay, let's take that. Like, let's recap. Let's recap. So we discussed the NFL and the black quarterbacks. We discussed the social protests that have been going on with the NFL. We discussed social activism in the NBA and the WNBA. What else would you guys like to leave off with the people for some last words or something?
I think that kind of this the whole point, right? And it's we're trying to bring it back. It's like we're all fighting for liberation. We're all fighting for freedom. We're all on this war, right, of love that I always talk about. Like, and so I think, like Eugene said, like we all have to be conscious of the work that we do daily to work on liberation, right? It's a daily walk. And so, like for our listeners, I think so many of us, that's been like the whole thing through COVID. Like, well, we need sports. Sports is our escape. Like, we have to start to like be critical of that, right? Allowing these escapes to allow us to escape from the things that are actually wrong or missing. And again, especially as a coach and a former player, I'm sure you guys can attest to this. These institutions aren't perfect and without their systemic racism and institutionalized white supremacy. And we're talking about how right now coaches love to talk about, the world just needs to be like a sports locker room. It's like yeah, for sure, there's moments, right, where it's beautiful, but it's also like there's white overseers under your coaches that, you know what I mean, like treat you a certain way. So I think we have to start to just be critical, understand how like the work for liberation is constant. It's in everything that we're doing, right? And so we just have to be mindful and critical thinkers, right? I think this whole thing, that's why it's, almost 2 hours long, because we're like critically working through these pieces, right? And we're like bringing evidence, like today it was maybe a few days ago, Trump said, they brought up, like climate change, and he said, science doesn't always know, right? And it's like, and I had someone today tell me about how capitalism, like they said, this is what they said, you can post all the stats and facts you want, but I know real life examples, right? Like we love this idea of exceptionalism, right? But there's a freaking rule for a reason. And so, like we see a LeBron who becomes almost a billionaire, right? But there's how many other Black athletes who are talented but don't, right? And so if we really want like liberation, like Eugene said, like we have to do more success, more growth. And what's funny is like you put up that old Kobe commercial and the new Kobe commercial, right? Like just brought me to tears, right? Like, better leader, better, you know what I mean? And I was like, and for me, that's exactly what it is, right? And whether it's I'm a teacher, educator, or coach, whether I'm with Stack Neighbor, whether I'm trying to do this podcast, like I want to be better, right? And I think we kind of like embrace that, right? And again, like so many people think it's singular, but when we start to realize that this is like what we're trying to do in our life is be better, and it starts to permeate throughout everything you do, right? And you can start to see why our podcast is, we're talking about sports, but we're looking at politics and we're looking at, race, because if we want to be better, if we want to be a better world, right, then we have to look how we can better all of these places.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, just to kind of piggyback, to be complacent is to die, right? So we have to continue to grow. We have to continue to change. And one of the things about sports that I fell in love with is how emotional it can be, right? And how exciting it can be. But we have to be honest with ourselves and know that in the midst of all this excitement, and we forget about who's who and where you come from and all of that, it's still a very ugly, well-oiled machine. And when we have a league where we still have Native Americans as mascots, and we have these billionaires who have bought these teams off of like dirty oil money and everything else, like we have to look at that, right? Because when we just say white supremacy, like we're obviously just not talking about white versus Black. It's bigger than that. It's deeper than that. And so we just have to keep zoning back out, right? Looking at that big picture. Where is Waldo? And we're 100 years late, right? NFL opened up in the 1920s. So,
It's third and goal, right? Because we still got a shot to win.
Bruh. And look, and that's the hardest part. The closest you get to the goal, man, that's when you got to work the hardest. So here we go. Don't pull the hamstring.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't pull that hammy.
I think y'all summed it up perfectly. And so I guess the only thing I'll say in closing is Angela Davis said, radical is simply grasping things at the roots. And I think that is something.
That's hot.
I think that's something that can only work for athletes, not only simply for their social justice activism, but for their careers as a whole. Like growing up, we always talk about coming out the trenches, getting out the mud. Radical simply means grasping things at the roots. And that's also something that we can use in our everyday life. And so that's all I'm going to say. I think this has been a great podcast, y'all. It's the first one. We got it out the way. We're going to get this to the people. Yeah. We're going to get this to the people.
You already know.
Got to make sure I try to
people third and goal, baby.
Third and goal, y'all.
Third and goal neighbor program. You already know what it is.
Shout out.
I'm gonna figure out a hand sign for third and goal.
Oh my God, Jordan about to have us banging on here.
I got a hand sign for the neighbor program. I'm teaching it to all my folks.
You're out of here.
Well,
I'm gonna have to unhouse OGs and pulling up. They my neighbor program. I'll be like, yeah, partner.
Hey, well, y'all, I'm just gonna sign off how I sign off my radio show. Don't hurt your brother, help your brother. When you help your sister, you help yourself. Y'all, this Third and Gold podcast. We're gonna be back with y'all soon. Bye bye.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yo.